Hey everyone, how you doing today? It is Thursday, and that means we talk with Jonathan Twomley, and we always start with unemployment claims. So, Jonathan, headline number looks good, but I think there's a story behind the story. So, what'd you see?
Yeah, so the headline number was good. It was a beat expectations by a lot,
Yeah,
by like 100,000.
yeah,
Uh, Looks really, really good. However, as always, you got to look behind the numbers a little bit for the story behind the numbers. And the story behind the numbers is that basically, because of all the terrible storms that happened in Texas and that area, a lot of people just didn't file their claims.
You
So
mean they had other priorities like
they
staying
had,
warm?
yeah, they had more important things to do, believe it or not, than than file unemployment claims. So they didn't. So the claims look superficially good, and I think the economists are pretty much expecting them to go back up to where they were
Yeah,
next week. Uh, However, there also seems to be a view that there is going to be a downward trend. It just hasn't started yet. It'll kind of pick up steam
yeah,
once the weather gets warmer. People can get outside more. They're not uh, spreading coronavirus to each other indoors, and more things can open up.
yeah,
Also, as the vaccines get rolled out, the vaccine, as you know, you've probably been watching, the number of COVID cases and hospitalizations has really dramatically declined
yep,
over the last, couple of weeks. And I think that's providing a lot of optimism for people that we may have turned the corner on this, and that things can really start opening up for good. And we've got just here in New York City, we've got indoor dining opened up again, even though it's at a very low level. They're letting middle school kids go back to school,
Oh wow.
thank goodness, which is great. So little by little, things are looking in the right direction.
Yeah,
However,
I think it's pretty clear. We've been talking about this for a while. We're closer to the end of this than we've ever been. The light at the end of the tunnel is no longer a speck or a flashlight. It's something much more significant. I think we will have a vaccine glut probably as soon as early April, right? Because now J and
should be
J,
great.
they were J&J. If you guys don't know, J&J has been building the vaccines for months now, waiting. Right, they built ahead of time, assuming they would get approval, and they did. So once that's officially done, we will have a vaccine glut. We'll have a distribution challenge and a sticking arms challenge. But for the first time, it won't be the medicine. So that will be
Right.
interesting to watch. We do have some forms of herd immunity going on now. Right? It's just been going on for this long, right? And hospitalizations, thankfully, are down. So again, I think we're closer to the end, but I think there's still some pain out there in the unemployment. I think you were going to go there before I interrupted.
Well, yeah, no, but actually, what I was going to say though is that there is some disturbing news about variant strains
Yeah.
that have
Yeah.
that have been allowed to develop. I was just reading this morning. There's one here in New York now
Mm-hmm.
that's been concentrated in northern Manhattan, but it's been detected throughout the city,
Sure.
and what the concern is that these variant strains, like the one that's going on in South Africa and Brazil, and
Yeah.
there was that other one in London, may be more resistant to the vaccines that have been developed so far. So,
Yeah, they have one in California, specifically Southern
yeah,
California, that's supposedly, like, I don't know. I mean, at this point, all of these, it's here. We missed our opportunity, I think, to stomp it out months ago.
mhm.
Now it's about let's keep doing the right things and moving forward. I don't want to go backwards, right? I don't want people to get
Yeah,
afraid.
nobody does, but
It's just,
yeah,
ugh.
but yeah, no, I mean, I think there's certainly like COVID fatigue for
Oh,
sure.
no
Even
doubt.
even amongst the people who were most sort of vigilant about everything. I mean, they're just like, enough of this already. Let's just get back
Well,
to
I've told you in
normal. And
past videos, I don't think my wife's been out of the house other than a walk we do in a year.
yeah,
It's that's what I'm kind of dealing with. So yeah, and I think back to the unemployment topic, right? I think the claims are down for the week, but they'll spike next week once Texas comes back. Hopefully
yeah,
not a ton, but I think it will. The
and
continuing claims was down 1 million, but I think that's a mathematical, the 1 week delay thing. The real issue you
yeah,
brought up that I missed is the emergency number
yes.
is as big as it's ever been. That's a
the
problem.
The emergency number went up by 1 million claims. right?
That's,
Which is just
I missed
like,
that. That's
I'm
not
sorry,
good.
700,000 claims, right?
Yeah.
So there's 19 million people still getting, I'm sorry, no, I take that back. There were 1 million more claims on the pandemic emergency program. So there are actually, even though the net of this is that there are actually, even though the new claims were down, there are 700,000 more people getting some form of assistance right now than there were the week before. So 19 million people altogether
Yep.
are still getting some form of assistance, which just, it continues to be record territory. And, if you look, even with the claims being down, and let's say that was a real number and not a number that
Mm-hmm.
was weather related, you're still, when you look at it, we're still just in this band. We've just been consistently in this band. There's just kind of like, somewhere between 750 and 850, and it goes up a little, it goes down a little. There's no clear downward trend.
Yeah.
We've kind of, as I said, months ago, all the low hanging fruit has been plucked.
Yeah.
Your unemployment situation, we're into that. The businesses that are gone and never coming back, the folks that really put in the best effort they could to hang on and just couldn't hang on any longer because they ran out of cash or what have you. That's what we're seeing, and it's going to then take a while. Once, even after the economy fully opens up again, it's just going to take a while to work down, for lack of a better phrase, work down that inventory of unemployed people and get them back to work in new jobs. And
we need retail to open up. We need restaurants to open up. We need facility. I mean, again, this is the bottom end of the K, right? We've talked about the K-shaped recovery. We need that piece cranking, and the 4-lane highway is still broken. There are it's smooth sailing ahead, but we got to get through the traffic jam, and it's just going to take time.
Let's talk about a couple of green shoots, though. And this is just anecdotal stuff. I mean, I'm assuming that this is kind of also happening elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But what we've seen, my wife was telling me she had lunch with a good friend of ours yesterday who's a commercial leasing agent here in the city. Mm-hmm. And what's starting to happen now is people are taking advantage of those low lease rates to start new businesses.
Exactly.
So
the grand opening wave. Yep.
Yeah. So people who have been priced out, and in this particular instance, it's restaurant owners.
Exactly.
People who have been priced out of trying to form new restaurants or whatever in New York City, now suddenly it's making sense again. So we are, and probably a lot of these people can lease fully built out restaurants too. Exactly. Right. So they don't have the same kind of CapEx investment up front.
Yep.
So
go get that 10-year lease, baby.
Now's the time to lock it in. Now the landlords are smart too. They're going to want to work in escalations pretty quickly if they can. But still, it's never been a better time to lease something than it is right now.
Yeah, you remember that was my hope months ago. I told you we'd have a record grand opening in 2021. I mean, 2020 is about closures. 2021 is going to be about openings, and I look forward to smiling more. Right, 2020 was rough,
but it is going to take time, though. That's the thing. People have to understand. It takes time to build out a restaurant. It takes time to build out a retail store. It takes time. All these things. It's going to be like a slow flywheel. Right, the flywheel takes a lot of energy to get it moving, but then once it gets cranking, then it's easier to
me.
It'll
be a snowball going downhill. Right, it starts very small, and then as it gains momentum, it'll get bigger and bigger, and it'll be as soon as the snowball gets so big, it's like its own vortex. It just keeps pulling stuff in. So,
But listen, they are predicting 6.1% growth for this quarter. Right.
Wow.
And
Q1.
And so, but that is, but as we've talked about before, that's off a lower base, right? So it sounds
good.
It's great. It's great, but it's still going to take us, we're going to have several quarters of that before we get back to where we were.
Yeah. Back to our earlier thought, Q2 would be better than Q1, Q3 better than Q2. Have faith in that. But if you're unemployed and suffering right now, that probably doesn't feel good. But job openings will increase. I think wages will go up. I think something you will see just naturally, even without the $15 federal thing. I think wages will go up as businesses look to attract people. So I think better times are ahead. if you're slogging through this as a young man who suffered through months of unemployment when my dad was unemployed, I know it doesn't feel great, but better times are ahead. You know, I don't know if I'll call it the roaring 20s, but I think the first 4 or 5 years of this decade are going to be pretty good. We just got to get through this last little bit. So let's wrap this one up. We're going to talk about inflation and unemployment next. So we're going to go deeper on these topics. Thanks, Jonathan.
Yep.